Good good evening, ladies. I was waiting for it to say I was live, but good evening, ladies, and thank you for being here. Welcome to the Single Mom Support Group live Friday night, our YouTube, Facebook crossover. We are dealing with disappointment. I've got my notes, stuff. I am ready to go. Let me ask you first, how has your week been? My week, man, talk about I don't do drama, then drama tries to test you. Oh, you don't do me? You don't know me? We don't know each other. What? So drama comes knocking and wow. So it has been a week of drama, but the end result is that I don't do drama anymore. I don't have to. The drama has left the building. And it was really because I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Help. And help came. And it came in the form of a fulfillment. He gave me a dream many, many months back about something that would be happening. And it happened. So that's how good God is to me. And there are more things to come, I suspect, but this particular dream that he showed, while one thing was happening in one place, something else happened too. So learning how to keep my eyes open. I am hoping that you are staying hydrated. I'm going to try not to make this intro too long, but hoping that you're staying hydrated. I want to show you what I am drinking tonight. I'm not drinking my normal Propel. It's, November now. And as we're into the second day of November, we're going, fall drinks and things like that. So since they're not sponsoring anything, and I'm not looking for sponsors, I just think you're supposed to do that. So I'm going to show you my box. I'm drinking like a apple cider here in my hot apple cider in my cup here. And it's just apple. It's not laced with anything. It's not a hot toddy, but I do enjoy these. Going to the store after the recording. So I was asking the boys, do it's cocoa time, some cocoa and marshmallows. And I don't like to get the cocoa with the marshmallows in it by itself. We always have to add extra. So I'll be getting a bag of marshmallows. But then the problem is they want the marshmallows in the cocoa, but then they also want to eat the marshmallows. So there you go. We are on video number 3, dealing with disappointment. And it has really been a challenge. Some of the disappointments, and it seems like every time I set myself to do a series, or I feel like the Lord speaks to me to do a series, from when He told me to start doing the series, then these things are happening in my life. And so I gave you some examples of the things that I was dealing with, like with the car accident, and there were a couple other examples. And then there was some other stuff that happened, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is just more and more stuff that I'm learning that I need to deal with. So I got my notes here. What we're going to do first is recap. We've been on, again, this is week number 3. So for the past 2 weeks, when we've dealt with disappointment, the first step was to acknowledge and affirm. So I'm going to recap for you. First of all, we acknowledged that we have been hurt. There has been disappointment, and someone disappointed us. Now, it may have been a person, some other person, friend, family, relative, boss, somebody. It may have been ourselves. We have taken some disappointing actions or made some bad choices and decisions that resulted in us disappointing others, which in turn disappointed ourselves. Or it even may have been God. And we talked about that. I shared with you last week about Not last week, but the very first week, I shared about how, I was disappointed with God, but kind of scared to admit it. And then we talked last week about how we get to admitting that and talking to God and talking through those disappointments and how God talks back a lot of times with a response. And it's always going to be good. It's always going to be loving words, kind words, might be stern, but it won't be angry. If you're hearing angry words, derogatory words at you, that's a whole different problem. When nobody else is in the room but you and God, and there's this other voice. So, okay. And then we acknowledge that we have feelings surrounding those hurts, right? That the hurts, disappointment made us feel some kind of way, even if we couldn't put it into words, put a finger on it, what it was that we were feeling. There was this kind of scratchiness on the inside that I've got. I don't want to be around that friend I used to love to hang around with. Now I don't want to be around them so much. So then we affirmed ourselves. Okay, we acknowledged all those things, and then we affirmed ourselves. We affirmed the validity of our feelings. Okay, we affirmed that our feelings were valid and that it's okay to feel them. We also discussed that grief has no timeline, so there's no time limit set for grief or dealing with the disappointments that happen to us. And then we also discussed that grieving doesn't always look the same for one person as it does for another. So grief in itself is going to look different. Dealing with hurt in itself is going to look different. But we can't let ourselves get so far gone in our grief that we're dying along with the dream or the relationship or whatever it is that we're disappointed in now. But we are listening to those people who are speaking life into our lives and in love and are telling us, hey, now is enough, because they know us. It's not a selfish thing on their part. It's in love. And so we continue to take a personal assessment as we progress, getting through and dealing with our issues. So those are the things that we discuss. And so ultimately, the conclusion of acknowledge and affirm is a good, honest look at our hurts, our disappointments, and why certain relationships may look like they do right now with avoidance, or I think another term nowadays is ghosting, or, throwing up shade. I don't, trying to, what have you. But being real, it should have been the outcome. And acknowledging that you feel how you feel, affirming those things, that's what that should have culminated in, is honesty. It's like a mirror. And my pastor uses this analogy. And so in acknowledge and affirm, that was our mirror. My pastor says this, a mirror can show you what's wrong when something's out of place. It can show you what's wrong, but it can't show you how to fix it. So with acknowledge and affirm, we're putting up that mirror. That's our honesty mirror. We're taking a good long look. We're not turning away and, shutting off the light or anything like that. That's our mirror, that now I'm looking at the situation. I'm looking at the feelings surrounding it. I'm looking at what this has done to me. I'm really looking at it. That should have been the culmination of acknowledge and affirm. So we're moving on in our series, Dealing with Disappointment, to the next step, erase and replace. And I'm going to clarify that in just a moment. But first, let's do a quick definition recap of what disappointment means. Okay, disappointment is defined as unhappiness from the failure of something hoped for or expected to happen. Someone or something that fails to satisfy hopes or expectations. And I do want to reiterate something before we progress in erase and replace, before we go on. And it is that important thing that I shared in part one, when we first started with acknowledging, is that unhappiness or happiness, happy, sad, disappointment, shame, embarrassed, all of these things, they have everything to do with external things, external situations, things that are happening to you or have happened to you. Okay. Again, as a person of faith myself, I still know that there is true, lasting joy and there's peace that you can walk in, regardless of what is happening or has happened or even will happen. But for the purposes of this discussion, we're focusing on those external things, those external circumstances that have caused you to be disappointed, those external things that have happened to cause the hurt. That is what we're looking at, even though I do understand that there's deeper that we can go. We're dealing with those external things. Um, the situations, the circumstances that have shaken up our hearts and have caused us to slow our forward momentum. Those things that have caused us to hesitate to trust or even to just fear people outright because we are now afraid of being hurt. So, and I'm watching the use of that word as a public speaker. I try not to use a lot of fillers like so, like, and I keep saying so and I'm catching it. So and that wasn't a filler, that was a conjunction. But I'm watching it. So erase and replace. At the end of this section, I'm going to take a drink of my apple cider because it's really good. Okay, so at the end of this section, we're going to be able to breathe easier and find some relief from the disappointments that we've listed. Like I told you last week, we're not just going to make this list and then just say, yay, now I can throw it away, I'm done. No, we got to do something with those things. And so how this is going to happen is that we are going to be doing one of the hardest things that a person can do, I believe. Okay, for those who have been successful in achieving this, there's been restoration of relationships, there's been peace, and there's been lasting resolutions to issues that have gone on for years long. There's restoration. But for those who have not been successful in achieving this, then it's resulted a lot of times in bitterness, being stuck. Sometimes it results in violence. Definitely, it results in a lack of peace. And at times, depending on the person, even long-term sickness. So we are going to be talking about forgiveness. Okay, forgiveness and unforgiveness, we're going to be talking about that. They're two sides of the same coin. So touching on both sides of that coin, this is what we're going to discuss. But first, let's talk about what forgiveness is not. Because some people think that when you forgive, that means, now I'm laying down. I have to lay down and let you keep, walking on me. If I say those words and if I forgive you, then that means, for me, it's a concession. It's, me laying down and you have all the power. Okay. So let's look at what forgiveness is not. Okay. Number one, for true forgiveness is not letting somebody off the hook for hurting you. Even though most people think that, it's really not. It's not letting someone off the hook. It's not saying, I forgive you. Now you can do this to me again. And that's what a lot of people think in saying, if I say that I forgive you, I'm giving you permission to do it again. And that's not what true forgiveness is saying, or even giving the impression of. I mean, they're going to take it how they're going to take it. But true forgiveness knows a little bit more than that. So true forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook for hurting you. True forgiveness is not pretending that everything is okay when you know it's not, right? True forgiveness does not mean I say I forgive you and then we smile and we're friends now and everything's good. And oh no, that didn't hurt me. I've forgiven it, so it doesn't bother me anymore. That's not. Seriously, that's not what true forgiveness is either. It's not phony. And that's completely phony. And true forgiveness is not phony. And when we get to the end of this, you're going to see what true forgiveness really is and can do for you. So, and for the situation. And then thirdly, I forgive you is not something you say just to keep the peace. So true forgiveness is not just giving somebody I want to say it's giving them a pass just to keep the peace. Okay, there are two kinds of people in situations like this. There can be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. Okay, the peacekeeper is the person that says I forgive you, or says do what you want, or allows certain things to happen and tells everybody be quiet, shut your mouth. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to say that. The peacekeeper is a people pleaser. That's what a peacekeeper is. A peacekeeper is trying to do what they can so that they don't cause waves, that they don't cause trouble, that they don't make somebody upset. I don't want to look like the bad guy. I don't want them to be upset with me. So even though that hurt me, even though this was wrong, I'm going to say I'm okay. Even though what I see them doing is wrong, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to bring it up. And we're going to pretend like everything is fine. That's the peacekeeper. The peacemaker is going to take actions. And the actions that the peacemaker takes will result in peace throughout the situation. So the peacekeeper is trying to please everybody so that people don't get mad. The peacemaker is going to take actions, and sometimes those are hard actions. Sometimes those are hard words. Sometimes those are separation from people that it's hard to separate from. But the end result throughout the situation will be peace. That's what the difference between a peacekeeper and a peacemaker is. A peacekeeper is just looking to appease people so that nobody's upset, trying to make everybody happy. A peacemaker is going to do those things that bring resolution and lasting resolution to a situation, and that results in peace. Peace that is tangible peace. So we discussed what, and I did it again, I noticed that. We discussed what forgiveness, true forgiveness is not. So then what is it? What is true forgiveness? Okay. So in March of this year, in the Single Mom Support Group, there was a video series. I did the video series on soul ties. It was right after dating. So it was late February, early March is when we really started jumping into it. And we talked a lot about the soul ties and breaking the soul ties. And if you're concerned about soul ties, you want to know about soul ties, go back and look at those videos. Terry Savelle Foy also has great videos. I'm so sorry. Great videos on breaking soul ties too. And so we did soul ties, but then we also did forgiveness, right? Because they're connected. You're tied to people. That's the way to break them. And so there was soul ties, and then there was forgiveness in those videos. And again, if you're not a member of the Single Mom Support Group on Facebook, then if you're a single mom, you're welcome to join. It's a closed group. It's for single moms only. There's a few questions that you can answer, that you have to answer, and you answer those questions. And if you put, in the last question when you see it, yes, and I'm interested in those videos, go ahead and do that. You'll get in if you answer the questions, honestly. But if you are a member, go ahead and go back and revisit those, because I found my notes. Okay, so I've got my notes. I'm going to be using some of those notes for this discussion that we're having now, as we're learning to erase through forgiveness. Personally, I don't believe that anybody can ever get enough instruction on forgiving. And the reason I believe that is because things happen every day, and things affect us in different ways every day. And we've got to always be in a mindset of, I got to forgive that. I got to forgive that. I've got to forgive that. When we are in that mindset of forgiving, then nobody can hurt us, basically. That's the key to walking in love. That's a different discussion for a different day. But I don't think anybody can ever get enough instruction on forgiveness, or the dangers of unforgiveness. So I've got my ministry book out. Some of you guys will recognize it from when I used it. Real quick flash there. Back in March, we're talking about forgiveness. And don't be concerned, I got my timer. If it goes off, I'm going to wrap it up. So I've got here a little note that I want to share. And I didn't use my friend Miriam for this definition like I normally do, but this is just something that I've learned, okay, about forgiveness. Forgiveness is letting go of the past and the hindrances that come with holding on to it. Now, I shared the last time that we were doing forgiveness and teaching on this, about how when you're in unforgiveness, if you can imagine, why is unforgiveness dangerous? You can imagine a 4x4 jail cell, just square bars all around. And inside this cell are all the people that you're holding in unforgiveness, these people that you have ought against, these people who have hurt you. And you are holding them in, but you're holding the door from the inside. Okay, so you're holding it shut. As long as you're holding it shut, it's going to be locked. Okay, so you're holding it shut so nobody gets out. Well, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is that you are also inside that same cell. You're holding all these people in, but you're in there too. I've heard it said like this also, that when you are operating in unforgiveness, it's like you drinking poison and expecting the person who hurt you to die. That makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to drink bleach and expect you to die. I don't realize the damage that I'm doing to myself. But that's kind of what unforgiveness does, okay? There is my timer. We're going to be talking forgiveness. We're going to be talking about erasing. And that at the end of this, that's what it's going to look like. But again, we're not talking about giving somebody a free pass. We're not talking about letting somebody off the hook. We're not talking about being okay, being a doormat, laying down and saying, if I forgive you, that means you're free to do it again. That's not what true forgiveness is. And that's not what we're going to be talking about. At the end of this, like I said, you're going to be able to breathe easier. Okay, so I'm wrapping it up here. We're going to start in with our notes on forgiveness next Friday or the next video. And I want you to start thinking about that. For some of you, when I say the word forgiveness, immediately something is risen up on the inside of you. I will never forgive them for this thing. I will never forgive them for this thing. Forgiveness is a choice. It absolutely is. And again, the danger of holding somebody in unforgiveness, is the damage that you do to yourself, thinking that you're hurting someone else. And it's not, it's a fallacy. It's a trap. As a person of faith, I absolutely believe in the devil. And I know it's a trap. I showed this book before. If you go back to those videos, I showed this book called The Bait of Satan by John Bevere. It is a fantastic book. I recommend that you read it. That's what it is all about. And I read that book. I'm thinking, it's like it's going to show me how to slay some demons and how to, kick the devil's butt and authority over, whatever. And I opened it up and it started talking about me forgiving people. And at that time in my life, there were people who hurt me. I believe I was married. Yeah. So at the time, there were people who hurt me. And I started reading that book and I was like, whoa, this is not what I expected. Excuse me. So that's where we're going to be next week, talking about forgiveness and walking that out. That's my cue. So I'm so glad that you guys have joined me tonight. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll be okay. I'm glad that you came, that you've joined me, and that we're going to be talking about this again. I didn't know that I needed this until I knew that I needed it, and I knew where we were going. So I'm very excited to be doing this again. Again, forgiveness is something that I believe you don't learn enough about, or you can't learn enough about, because it keeps coming up. It's something that you have to continually do. And so we're going to continually do it. I will be here with the next video. It will be posted next Friday in the Single Mom Support Group on Facebook. So you can catch it there, or you can catch it here on this channel, Suddenly a Single Parent. And you ladies have a great weekend. You're my heart. I love you. I've got stuff that I am motivated to do before the end of the year. I've got the second book that I've been writing. It's a devotional, and it's a 365-day devotional. A lot more challenging than I expected, but my goal is to have it done by the end of the year, and it's pretty close. So that said, I'm going to log off, watch some movies, drink some hot cider, have some fun with your kids. I hope you guys enjoyed your Halloween and you got lots of candy. My little guy got some candy and it's like all gone. And he didn't even offer me any. So, whatever. I'm not bitter. I forgive him. So we're going to talk about that next week. And I love you, ladies. And I will see you then. Bye-bye. done.